Hey guys, so today we're going to be looking at some common errors you get in JavaScript and how to fix it. So right here I just have a project open where at the top here it says contacts loading, and eventually this should fill up with contacts here. But right now you can see this is not working. So the first thing we want to do is right click and select inspect here. And you do this for any error that you're encountering with JavaScript basically. So inside of this inspect here, you can see there's a few different icons here at the top. The one we're interested in is this one called console. So if I select that, you can see some messages here. And we're looking specifically for messages that are in red. So that means that that's an error. And you can see a small X mark here next to it. So if we look at this error, I'm just going to expand this a bit. We can see that it says uncaught in promise, and it gives us some information here. Now, I know most of the stuff in here, if you just read it, you won't be able to understand what it's saying, but there is some proper English here which you can read. For example, right here it says type error, cannot set property of null. So let's look at our code and see what property of null it's trying to set. And right here it tells us the setting that it's trying to set is inner HTML, but it can't set that inner HTML because we're trying to set it on null. So the line that this error is on is our index file, which it says right here, and it's on line 53. So I'm going to open up my code here, and in the index file I'm going to look for line 53 right here. And on line 53, we can see here it's doing document.getElementById. And here it's supposed to say table, but I spelled table wrong on purpose to show you this error. And then it's saying .innerHTML. So if we go back and look at that error, here it's saying it cannot set property of null. So why is it saying null here? Because we're trying to get the ID of table, which is misspelled here. So it can't actually go and grab that thing and bring it here because there is no ID of TABL. The only one in our file here is table with an E. So okay, it tried to get the ID of that, and obviously this statement right here is going to fail because there's no E here. And then next it's doing .innerHTML. And if we go back and look at that error, it says here the setting it was trying to set is inner HTML, but it cannot set it on null. So the way this error is happening is it's trying to fetch that thing up until this point, and it can't fetch that thing, so it returns null. And then this .innerHTML, which is supposed to run on that table element, is now running on the null which this returned. So again, to find that error, we just look at this blue text here, and it tells us in which file and which line number. So this is index.html, line 53. And then the text here helps you identify exactly what that problem is. So here for this file, we just need to correct this to an E here. And now it should be fetching the correct element. And then it should get the inner HTML of that element. So let's save this and refresh the page. And now we can see that it has all of our contacts here. So now we can close this, and that error is sorted. So let's look at another error that we can get in JavaScript. Okay, so we're back here again. Now we have contacts loading once again, and again it's not showing us our contacts. So this time let's look at what the error could be. I'm going to right click here, and I'm going to select inspect. And I'm going to head to the console once more. We do this for every error we get in JavaScript. This is just where it will be listed. So here it's saying invalid or unexpected token. And remember, when we see these errors, we always want to look for the English in it because it's going to explain what that error is. And we have another error down here. It's saying fetch contacts is not defined. So right now we have two errors. Now when you see something like this where there's multiple errors here, you want to start with the top one, the first one. The reason why you do that is because this top error might be causing the bottom errors. So fixing the bottom ones is not really what you want to do. You want to fix the top one and then see how many below it disappear. So right here, I know for sure I only created one error in my code. So by fixing this first error here, it should also solve the second error here. So you always want to solve them from the top down. Now, okay, let's see where this error is. It's on index.html and it's on line 38. So I'm going to head to my index file here. And on line 38 here, we have output is equal to, and we opened our quotes here, and then we put some text inside of it. So we just have a table here with a class on it, and this is the ending tag for the table. But notice here we're missing the quote here, so we didn't close this. And actually, if you look closely, there's a small red underscore here. So if I hover above that, it will tell me it's an unterminated string literal. So it just means we didn't close the string here. Now, before I even close this, let me explain what's happening here. When we open a string like this and we don't close it on this side, what JavaScript assumes is that everything from here onwards is part of that string. And actually in JavaScript, we need to close every string we open, and the semicolon we put at the end doesn't really matter if we don't close the string. So if you put your semicolon here, it doesn't matter whether the semicolon is here or not. If you didn't close that string, the line doesn't end here. This semicolon is now part of the string, and so is everything else going down from here. So I hope that makes sense. You need to make sure you're closing that string. Yeah, you need to make sure you close every string that you're opening. If you ever get an error and there's a string on that line, that's the first thing you should be checking. Did I close that string? And then after that, you can make sure you typed everything correctly in that string. But yeah, for this example, all I did was I forgot to close that quote here. So I'm going to save this, head back, and now you notice that even though there was two errors here, both disappeared. So when you have multiple errors like that, you want to first check the top one. And when you fix that, some of the bottom errors will disappear as well. Okay, so let's close this and look at the next error we could be having. Okay, so once again, we're back. The context is not loading. Let's look for errors. So we right click, we inspect, and then here in the console, now we're getting huge errors here. And again, remember there's 3 errors here, but we always want to start at the top one. So this time, let's try and do what we did in the previous error, which is look at the top one and then check the file here. Now what it's saying is access to fetch at, and it's giving a site here from origin, and it's giving something here, has been blocked by cause. Now this error is actually, it can be caused many ways. And if you look at the line number right here, it says on line 1. So if we go to the HTML on line 1, there's no error here. This is just a HTML tag. So sometimes even that, the way of solving errors that I showed you earlier, where you look at the line number here, it doesn't work for everything. With this error, for example, what it's referring to is something called cause in the browser, CORS. And there's a few different things that could be causing this. Number one, it could be blocked on your browser. So your browser may not be allowing you to make this API call. Number two, there could be an error with the actual API. So maybe you typed the name wrong or something. Number three, the API could be blocking certain addresses from accessing their service. So an API could say if your service is not starting with HTTPS, don't allow it to connect to our API. And yeah, there's a lot of different errors that could be causing this. So in this particular case, just looking at where the error is here won't help you fix it. So I'm just going to head into my code and I'm going to look for what could be happening. And before that, if you look at the other 2 errors down here, these also won't tell you much. It will tell you that well, this one is not really human readable, but it just says failed to load resources. And then the third one here says failed to fetch. So we already know the error is in the fetch statement because it's mentioning the API up here. Let's go look at that. Okay, so this is our fetch statement right here. We have fetch and a path, and then we have a couple .then statements here. Now in fetch here, you may notice it says controller get contacts. So right here I missed a /. And this is something that the console in your browser will never be able to tell you, because it doesn't know what that URL is supposed to be. This could be linking to anywhere. It could be your own website that you made up and you typed in here. So it won't be able to tell you that you missed a / here. So if you see that cause error or it says fail to fetch, it's usually because you messed up the URL here. So yeah, that's the only real way that you can solve this type of fetch error. You have to look through the entire fetch statement yourself and make sure everything is spelled correctly. And if it is and you're still getting that error, then if the API belongs to you, you need to go check in that API to make sure it's not blocking you. And the last thing that could be causing that cause error is your browser itself. So cause is a security feature of the browser, and it can be set up to block certain things from happening for security reasons. So if you're getting that error and you're sure all your code is correct, you're sure all your URLs are correct, and you're sure the API accepts your fetch request, then the only possible error here is that your browser itself is blocking. And if that's happening, you need to either use a different browser, or you can also disable cause in your browser, but I'm not going to show you how to do that because you're not supposed to disable cause. It's there for security reasons. And yeah, let's move on to the next error. Okay, so we're back again. Once more, the contacts are not loading. Let's right click, inspect, and let's head to the console here. And it says, okay, reference error, fetch contact is not defined. So when it says something like this, it usually means you're calling a variable or a function that doesn't exist. So most likely what you did here is you spelled the name of the variable or the function wrong. So here it's saying in the index file on line 10 here. So let's head to the index file, and line 10 is here. So it's this line. On this line you can see we have fetch contact here in the onload property, and if I scroll down a bit, you can see that we have fetch contact here as well. So now let's go through the spelling here and make sure everything is correct. We have fetch contacts with the capital C here. So if I scroll up to the top, we have fetch contact with the capital C, but notice that we're missing an S here. So I'm going to put the S in and save that. And yeah, that works. Okay, so we're back here once more, and this time the contacts have loaded successfully, but notice if I click on this add contact button here, it's not working. And this, you may think you did something wrong. Why is this button not clicking? But you always first want to check the console here. So I'm going to open up the console, and it says here cannot read property of null. So we've seen this error once before when we spelled the ID wrong, and here it's saying reading add event listener. So basically what's happening here is we're trying to call add event listener on null. Now why is that happening? Let's go figure it out. So this is on the index file on line 25. So I'm going to head to the index file again, and line 25 is right here. So okay, we have document.getElement by ID and contact.add event listener. Now if you remember from the first error that we did, we know that when we're trying to read something on null here, it usually means it's failing to get the tag that we're trying to add event listener to. So let's check this out. We have add contact here, and we're missing a T here. And on the top here we have a button with the ID of add contact, and here we have that T. So we want to make sure it's spelled correctly here. And also, if this was an uppercase C and this was a lowercase c, it wouldn't work. Everything needs to be exactly the same. If they are different, it won't be able to fetch this button, and then since it didn't fetch the button, this add event listener is going to be called on null because nothing was returned from this. So this is a common error. I just wanted to show you two different ways that you can get this error, but there's a lot of ways that you're going to end up getting that same error where it says cannot read property of null. So I'm going to refresh this now, and if I click on add contact here, I think I forgot to save. Let me save and come back, and now that error has gone away. So if I click on add contact here, it will now all work correctly. And also notice that the error here, it's not easy to see, because if you click this button and it doesn't work, it's not the same as if the contacts don't load here. You may think there's something wrong in your HTML where you define the button or anything like that, but really anytime you see an error, the first thing you want to do is head to the console here. No matter what that error is, you always want to head to the console. And if there's no error in the console, then that usually means you either typed your code wrong, so all your code is correct, it's just not doing what you think it's doing, or you messed up in your HTML. Now lastly, the steps that we want to follow, I'm going to go through them one more time. You always want to right click and select inspect here, and head to the console in this tab. Next, you want to go through all the errors that are in here from the top down. You don't want to start debugging from like the third error in here, because usually what happens is that first error in the top is the main error, the real error in your code, and it's causing a cascading effect that's showing you all those other errors. So it's only the first error that's the actual problem. So that's why you always want to fix the first error first and then see if the rest disappear. If they don't disappear after that, then you can go ahead and solve them one by one from the top down. Now always when you see an error here, you want to look on the right hand side right here, and it will tell you the name of the file and the line that it's on. So here it says index.html and it's on line 34. Now sometimes what you might see here is something like this. I'm just going to write it at the bottom of this file. You may see something like 34 and then a colon here and 23, for example. So when you see this on the line number, what it means is it's on line 34 and it's character 23. Character meaning, let's say it was on this line, line 34, it's 1, 2, 3, is the whatever number we have down here, 23. So it means it's the 23rd character on that line, that's where the error is starting. But usually the second number here, you can just not pay attention to it. All you need to know is it's on line 34, the first number we have. So if you see this type of line number in your console here, don't get confused. It's just the first number that's shown, that's the line number. And yeah, with that guys, that's the end of this video. I hope everyone enjoyed the video and you're able to solve whatever JavaScript errors you're getting. And I'll see you guys in the next video.